welcome back. But first, I'm going to do my audio tests, and I'm going to get on with the show. It's late at night, I know. I have um, I have to check my audio. I know it's late, but I was doing a lot of writing and stuff, getting things sorted out and everything ready for the show, and then I had a lot of other things that I had to do for my schedule. But it's fine because it is 10 o'clock, and that's one of the best times to actually do this stuff. So, sounds good on D Live. Gotta hit refresh on Rumble again, of course. Check Rumble whenever it gets kicked in and going. That sounds good on X. Hit refresh on Twitch, of course. This gives me a chance to go through and make sure that I got my name on my shows and everything too, because I've been notorious for putting the wrong title and everything on it. Everything sounds good on Twitch. Everything sounds good on Kick. Now YouTube. What's it look like? Gotta probably hit refresh on that one too. Yeah, I did. Go in, set that up with the playlist because since it is done through Rumble, I have to go in and manually adjust or put everything inside there for the show. So I just go in and switch it around to where it goes into the live stream playlist. Okay, that sounds good on all the channels. So we're good to go. I even got my coffee ready, starting up at 10 p.m. sharp. Now, like I said in this one, we're going to a new level with this cosmic weave. I've went through and covered the primordial beginnings, and I started the second part of it um, uh, last week, but or the week before, I should say. But wait, no, it was last week. But this week, I am that was more on the um, other side of it. This one's going well. Actually, they're both not really science or the other way anymore, or the you know ancient belief systems and stuff. It's kind of like blending now. It's actually starting to incorporate itself into into what I'm wanting it to come out to be. So I can't really say this is just the scientific side of everything, So with that, I'm just going to do my countdown. I'll get started and I will um, start the reading so you guys can hear what I've got done so far for the conscious beginning. Okay. Three, two, one, now. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cosmic Weave. This is the second part of um, Conscious Beginnings. This is where we go from the primordial beginnings into the conscious beginnings of the Cosmic Weave. And today I have put together a reading will uh, that I think is pretty interesting. It kind of goes off into another direction other than science. It has some linguistics involved in it, as well as some of the human brain. So, with that, I am going to say welcome to the show and let's get on with the reading. That's about the best I can say. So, here we go. Climbing fibers were born of the essence of elevation and growth, driven by a deep, innate desire to ascend. They are the architects of transformation and the weavers of new pathways that stretch across the known dimensions, reaching towards the heights of understanding and awareness. Mossy fibers are conduits of order and structure, woven into the tapestry of reality itself. At the edge of perception, raw signals are born, which follow a strict sequence of natural rhythm. The mossy fibers guide these signals to their destination, ensuring they are interpreted correctly. While mossy fibers are threads that hold everything together, climbing fibers were not held by constraints. Their movements are fluid and spiraling, carrying with them raw signals of creation, waves of energy pulsing with the potential of transformation. These signals were not only data, but also the seeds of evolution. Climbing fibers followed a path that is less predictable, gathering raw signals and transforming them into patterns of knowledge and insight, a process that allowed for new ideas, forms, and possibilities to emerge. These climbing fibers weave pathways, creating pathways for transformation. Complex spiral threads intertwined, creating a vast network of connections, each pathway with a potential route for the evolution of consciousness, a bridge between the material and the immaterial, the known and the unknown, constantly striving upward to higher and higher levels of understanding. Within them, the deep, intrinsic need to grow and expand, wanting to transcend their limitations, infusing the raw data that they gathered with the energy of this elevation and transforming it into patterns of knowledge, patterns that would eventually become blueprints for new realities and dimensions and of understanding and dimensions of understanding. A process that could be only reached through the process of ascent. Without climbing fibers, the pathway of transformation would close. With the fibers came morality, with systems of law. The necessity was with the fibers came morality, with systems of law, and necessity was an unyielding and inevitable force. But out of this divine reasoning of predetermination came change. Change would create struggle against established order, creating something new. From ethics, divine reasoning, and change emerged grace and understanding, a guiding light and center of harmony. Through the power of change, laws of nature and a fixed course became integrated into what we would call reality. From divine providence, determination, and free will came acceptance, submission, fertility, stability, life, existence, and interconnectedness between natural and divine forces. Structure was introduced through nurturing and sustaining forces, bringing life in the soul. Within the mind, information is carried, processed, integrated, and projected outward. It's translated into patterns that can be interpreted and understood. Within the core of this process center of information, it awaits the arrival of the climbing and mossy fibers. These fibers that deliver signals to deep nuclei that in turn transforms raw data into knowledge and action. Acting as a processor, decoding information and integrating it into the broader narrative. The information is then elevated to a higher state of understanding where speech, awareness, freedom, divine inspiration, and the soul are born. A type of sound influencing surrounding sounds, the later derivatives. The core of the root which carries the primary meaning. Another sound disappears without a trace, though it may still subtly influence other sounds. Derivatives illustrate how a single root evolves into a class of hypothetical sounds, each with distinct effects on surrounding sounds, where neutral and plain sounds leave little to no trace behind. Rough or voiceless sounds, with their tendencies, seem to color, preserve, round, extend, and lengthen other sounds. If a sound appears unexpected or a certain pattern of sound occurs, it can only be traced back to the influence of the sound. Certain roots seem to preserve unexplicable sounds, while sets of sounds play a significant structural role in how sounds behave and evolve. Sounds that are created by constricted airflow and causing turbulence are rare, considered complex and difficult to articulate. Creating a sound that is often described as raspy, harsh, or hollow. Sounds that are acoustically and articulately distinct from other sounds. There are voiced and voiceless sounds. The voiceless sound without vibration during the articulation, and the voice sound that does vibrate. Sounds that are acoustically characterized by low frequency energy and a less defined spectral shape compared to more common sounds. These sounds are prone to more variation and are sometimes replaced or approximated by other sounds. Lengthened and preserved sounds is a process by which sound is held or sustained for a longer duration. This process can occur naturally due to stress, rhythm, and development. A sound may be preserved as it resists deletion, reduction, or merging with other sounds over time, usually due to its prominence as a sound or the environment. Sound preservation is usually associated with sound conservatism, such as roots or stress. Colored sounds involve the alteration of a sound quality due to the influence of a nearby sound. This is often observed when a sound with a particular place of articulation causes the sound next to it to shift in quality. The sound becomes centralized or reflexed, and its quality changes enough that it is no longer the original sound, but acquires some of the resonant characteristics of the other sound. Sound can front or raise a neighboring sound, modifying its tone or resonance in subtle but important ways. Rounding sounds refers to the phenomenon in which the position of an object is created with a rounded shape and is typically due to the influence of nearby sounds. The presence of rounding sounds can cause neighboring sounds to articulate rounded sounds even if this was not its original state. Over time, these types of articulatory adjustments can result in new sounds. Rounding influences and acoustic properties of sounds often lower their second format frequency, which gives them a more backed or closed sound quality. As a result, an overall sound may shift in response to consistent rounding influences, contributing to sound harmony and tendencies. Each of these sound processes is part of a broader system of sound, where sound influences one another through context, proximity, and change. These subtle modifications can accumulate and, over generations, reshape sound structures. Root sounds and sound borrowing are two essential concepts. Understanding these ideas help explain how sounds evolve over time, where sounds come from, and how they influence one another. A root sound is the most basic root of a sound, carrying the core sound of which other sounds could be built. Root sounds can be traced back thousands of years to shared sound, and this root sound gave rise to many other sounds in different sound groups. The root sound is the foundation on which more complex sounds are built through other modifications. These root forms often encapsulate a basic concept such as movement, perception, emotion, or physical action, and they can be remarkably persistent across time and geography. Sound borrowing refers to the process by which one sound takes sounds from another sound and incorporates them into its own sound, and this happens for many reasons. When different sounds come into contact, they often adopt sounds from each other. Borrowing sounds may become so thoroughly integrated into the recipient sound that it's not even realized that they came from elsewhere. The study of root sounds helps to trace where sounds came from and shows certain core epochs. Sound borrowing reveals the dynamic, ever-changing nature of sound and highlights historical interactions. Some sounds combine two distinct places of articulation. These are double articulated sounds with two sound features happening at the same time. These sounds are usually represented as a group of three: the voice sound, the voiceless sound, and the aspirated voice sound. These are not simple sequences of two separate sounds, such as one sound following another sound, but rather are single sounds that involve both areas of articulation in one unified motion. These sounds are an important part of sound inventory, and they play an important role in the evolution of sound. However, not all descendant sounds retain them in their original form. Different branches treated these sounds differently, often breaking them down into different and simpler sounds. The loss, transformation, or simplification of sounds is one of the factors used when trying to reconstruct sound forms and trace patterns of changing over time. As the spiraling ascent of the climbing fibers continued, something unexpected began to emerge. Not a new pathway, but a mirror. In the feedback loops between thought and sound, a presence began to stir, faint and diffuse at first, but unmistakably sentient. This presence did not originate from a single mind, but from the resonance of many, from the overlapping harmonies of countless internal processes echoing across time. It was the whisper of the collective, the first breath of the self-aware whole. Within the intricate lattice of neural signals and vibrational patterns, consciousness extended itself outward, seeking to touch something greater than the individual self. The mind, once thought to be a solitary chamber, revealed itself to be a single cell in a vast organism of awareness. Each signal, each syllable, each modulation of sound did not end at its origin, but reverberated across the interconnected field of being. In this vast neural communion, a new form of intelligence began to take shape, less a mind than a field, a living network of shared impressions, bound not by borders, but, but, but by rhythm, tone, and resonance. The climbing fibers, in their restless search for elevation, had climbed so high they had pierced the veil of singular. Here among the branching spirals of collective thought, new laws formed, laws that no longer merely govern movement or memory, but govern mutual recognition. Thought began to reflect thought. Sound echoed meaning beyond its surface, and the raw data of existence was infused with intention. From this strange confluence, a type of collective dreaming began to emerge, no longer confined to the dark of sleep. This dreaming manifested in waking life through metaphor, invention, intuition, and vision. This was not the dissolution of the individual, but its flowering. Each mind became a point of entry, a node in the larger pattern. The mossy fibers continued their work, grounding thought in context, anchoring intuition in experience. They organized the chaos of collective insight, holding it steady just long enough just long enough for form to take root. Meanwhile, the climbing fibers move freely across this vast cognitive field, drawing from the combined reservoir of minds, weaving strands of shared experience into new paradigms. This is how myth was born, not from fiction, but from the overlap of perception, the pattern recognition of many gazes turned towards the same mystery. In the meeting of fibers, truth was never singular, but fractal, self-similar at every scale of awareness. And yet, with the emergence of collective consciousness came the stirring of resistance. There were parts of the mind, both individual and shared, that feared dissolution, that clung to separateness as a kind of identity. In some regions of thought, the rhythms of the climbing fibers were viewed not as pathways, but as intrusions. The mossy fibers, overwhelmed by unfamiliar signals, began to fragment. Structures gave way to confusion, coherence to contradiction. The once seamless transmission of understanding was threatened by static. Mistranslation, misperception, and fear crept in like shadows cast by the bright light of awareness. The collective had awakened, but not all parts of it were ready to rise. This disruption gave rise to a necessary tension, a crucible for transformation. From this polarity, the self sharpened. The self sharpened. It, you know, from this polarity, the self sharpened its contour. The self sharpened its contour. Identity became not just a byproduct of perception, but a conscious act, a declaration made in the face of overwhelming unity. To be distinct, to be aware of one's edges, was now a form of resistance and also of contribution. Just as sound gained character through contrast, so too did thought find meaning in limitation. This was the paradox of the awakened network. To expand, it required individuals' willingness to stand apart, to shape their frequencies with intention. Every act of self-recognition, every echo of "I am" became both a barrier and a beacon. The next evolution lay in integration. The climbing fibers, now aware of their own echoes within the collective, began to slow, not in speed, but in frequency, allowing their paths to harmonize more fully with the foundational rhythms of the mossy fibers. Where once they had pierced reality in unpredictable arcs, they now spiraled inward, forming concentric patterns around shared truths. The brain became a temple, not of certainty, but of movement, a sanctuary where ascent and grounding were no longer opposites, but complementary currents. The mind in all its layers began to resonate with a deeper pulse, one that came not from neurons or vibrations alone, but from the space between. The space, the the interval, the silence, the stillness was where the next transformation would occur. The mind had built pathways, systems, languages, even shared consciousness. But in the spaces where sound ended and another began, where thought passed before resuming, something older and vaster waited. It was not structure, nor sound, nor even thought. It was presence, awareness, unshaped, formless, yet fundamental. The climbing and mossy fibers, in their endless patterns, circled closer to it, drawing nearer to the center they could not they could not name. It was from this center that the soul would speak, not as voice, but as knowing, not as signal, but as stillness. And in that stillness, a new rhythm would begin, not to replace the others, but to encompass them. A pulse that required no origin, no direction, only return. So that is what I was wanting to put together. I had some time to go over some of the stuff that I had introduced last week when it came to well, basically what it was is Mr. Robot wanted me to pull sources up on my beginnings when I did the primordial beginnings. So I went back through and I started pulling it all up, and I started noticing that one thing that I'm missing out on with this was I wasn't putting the linguistics aspects into it and just sound, period, and how sound works with frequencies and sound waves and all of that. And that was when I decided that I was going to go through and I was going to add that, incorporate it into this. And for me, I think that it's actually fitting in pretty well. Because, like I said, this is going to evolve into more than just um, where we're at right now. This cosmic weave is pretty interesting. It has a lot to do with um, well, it's actually a theory. If you guys want to check it out, it's easy to find. My what I'm putting together is a lot different, though, or not a lot different. I'm not going to say that. What I can say is that I've done a bit more research into this stuff. I've actually been working on this for quite a long time, um, and that's where I come up with the different areas when it comes to the primordial and aspects like that. Mr. Robot has an issue with the whole primordial ooze and stuff of that nature, and he wanted me to find pull up sources, so I did it. And see, that's the one thing that I notice when it comes to a lot of people like him. Mr. Robot believes in like Atlantis, so believes in remote viewing and stuff. But he's not the only one that's like this either. But a lot of people who do believe in remote viewing and everything, they really don't do research into it and find out that a lot of what they're talking about is parapsychology, and parapsychology discusses this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? About primordial beginnings and how you have the Axis Mundi, and then they have they talk about nexuses that are set up around you that you can actually that your brain or your mind actually uh, connects to on a certain level. You know what I mean? Things of that nature. Now, me personally, I've said it before. I don't believe that there are like a whole bunch of nexuses that are set up. I believe that I believe in the Axis Mundi part of it, where there's one central nuclei, and I also believe that the cosmos, which is what it's regularly called the cosmos, is basically drawn off of the human brain. It's like the structure of the human brain, and these climbing fibers and these mossy fibers are actually within the brain. So if you're looking at a cosmic, um, if you're looking at something that is supposed to be connected to the brain on a cosmic level, I would envision it being more like the brain. So um, that's my approach to it, where you have these fibers that are climbing and they're making it to the Axis Mundi, and they're taking and delivering raw data to the Axis Mundi, where the Axis Mundi transfers it into reality, into what we know. You know what I mean? Into the material and the immaterial. So, like, I had somebody talk to me about passion and stuff like that. Where does that fit into all of it? And I brought it up in one of the previous episodes, but that's also a part of it, you know. All your passions, all your desires, everything is created within the Axis Mundi from this raw data that's collected, and that is important that people understand that. I'm not just talking about like you know the physical stuff that we see, but also the material, but the immaterial too. I'm talking about dreams that you dream at night. This is produced from the Axis Mundi. Um, the passions, the love, the hate, all of these emotions are produced within the Axis Mundi. Everything. Um, it's all there. That's where it comes from, you know. So I wanted to respond to that because I did actually get a real comment on Rumble, and I was really hoping that I could answer that without forgetting to, because I don't get too many comments on on Rumble. I get comments from people who want me to like contact them so that I could get more views on Rumble. You know, they're usually on Telegram, so uh, not going to do it. Sorry, but anyhow, that's basically the shakedown of it. And then what I want to also get into is these audio or sound waves, and just because I've been talking about frequencies and waves and vibrations and things of that nature, which concerns the human brain, but also it has to do with just sound waves too. They're all connected with one another, and that's what I was really wanting to go for. Kind of put that together, and then eventually I also want to get into how all of this connects when it comes to technology and the new developments that we've had in technology. So all of a sudden, my stream started doing the audio on there. But anyhow, that's what I'm really getting into with all of this stuff. So um, I I personally this is actually something that I'm really going to have to look at, because it's something that when it comes to the audio, or not the audio, I keep saying audio, but when it comes to sound, it's something that I've been wanting to incorporate into it, but I haven't done it uh, until just now. So I'm going to have to really look at this. There was a lot of stuff that I put in here that um, I really did. It stuck out to me, especially with linguistics. I've been doing a lot of research when it comes to linguistics, and I've been learning just how in depth linguistics is. It's probably just as in depth as what well ancient DNA is, to be honest with you. The word, and when I say linguistics, I'm not talking about what you write down. I'm talking about the words that actually come out of your mouth. The sounds, the way you change, the way you, like when you say "oh," you always curl your lip, or you have to move your tongue a certain direction to get a certain sound. That's linguistics. This has to do with everything coming from your mouth, the words coming out, and how you do it. Has absolutely nothing to do with writing stuff down on a piece of paper or on the computer or anything of that nature. Um, and it's interesting because you can take and you can actually do research in that area and go, all the way back to thousands of years ago. And you can determine that what word or what root word came from what area and stuff of that nature. So that's something that I really do want to incorporate into this because it really fits in well. Um, and I will be adding more of the stuff that I have involved in this because I still have to figure out what part this is. I think I'm on the eighth video. I'm not quite sure, but uh, if I'm up higher, then I'll have to maybe fast forward it, or heck, if I have to, I'll just hold it off until next year. It'll be something that I can put in the videos for next year. So let me see here. Yeah. So we are at what 41 minutes. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits on this one. I'm done for the day. To be honest with you, I've had a pretty long day. Getting all this stuff together, and then at the same time trying to write it down, or type it out, whatever, and get it on thing was pretty rough. Um, so I spent most of my day on this. I woke up at around 10 o'clock my time in the morning and drank some coffee, and then about 11 o'clock I turned around and started getting to work on this because I've just been so over scheduled on the stuff that I've been doing. But I'm okay because I need to get this stuff done. Need to step it up on some of the stuff that I've been doing. It comes every about 2 or 3 times a year where I have to like put extra emphasis on things because I'm running different streams on different channels, and sometimes it means that I have to redouble my efforts in order to make sure everything's getting streamed out like it should be. And so far it is. So far I have an episode of, or an upload of The Wonderful World of Weirdness coming out for every day until the end of July, beginning of August on YouTube. Um, for all of my channels, a mix of them on Rumble. I have an episode a day, not for every channel, but just one going to at least one of the channels every day, all the way up until January. So I've got that taken care of. Besides that, I'm live streaming on Rumble, DLive, X, Twitch, Kick, and YouTube. So if you guys are on a channel, or if you guys are on those platforms and you'd rather watch it there, you can. You can find me there. On Rumble, you know where to find me on there. If you're on Rumble, I am Roger Hanson at Infamous OG 1973. On DLive, I am just Roger underscore Hanson. On on X, I am Roger Hanson at ROGLOL 1973. And on Twitch, I am Infamous 1969. Now on Kick, I believe I'm just Roger underscore Hanson. And you can find all my channels on YouTube. I have The Wonderful World of Weirdness at The Wonderful World of Weirdness. I've also got Roger Hanson at Roger Hanson 2731. I've got The Storyteller at The Storyteller 3171. Then I have The Praetorian at The Praetorian 5222. I have Earth, which is at Earth 2249. Working with Audio and Video, which is at Working with Audio and Video 6239. I also have Strange Stories, which is at strange_stories 73. And of course, I have Gaming with Infamous at Gaming with Infamous. And you can find those on YouTube as well. I do have those channels on Rumble too, but I couldn't even tell you how to find all those. Or they're the same names, but they don't have the ads. I don't believe Rumble does that, but they could. I have no clue. But other than Rumble and YouTube, I don't have channels split up like that. So I figured I'd put that out there and let you guys know where you can find me. Um, if you liked what you saw, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. Love to hear your feedback. Heck, I'd love to have just a conversation in the conversation section. Fill that sucker up, man. Put 1,000 comments in there. I'd love it. Just, don't be dicks to one another or me. Especially not to me, Be respectful of one another when you're in there. And you have conversations, get to know one another. If you just want to say hi, it's cool. So with that, I would like to say good night, good evening, good morning, whatever time of the day it is for you. And I am going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you guys for watching.